And welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today I'm going to be doing a book review on The Voice of Knowledge, one of my favorite books ever. Of course, naturally, it is falling apart like all my favorite books. But what makes this book great is he gives you 4 agreements to kind of take with you in your life if you want to apply them in your own practice and kind of become, I don't want to say a better person, but just more mindful throughout your day. So I'm going to run through those 4 agreements and just talk a little bit about the book without giving everything away. And I would highly advise that you pick up your own copy. As you can see, I have things just like underlined, and it's a book I never get sick of. It's also based on Toltec wisdom. So if you're familiar with that teaching or that culture, I would look that up. He is also the author of the 5th agreement. So in this book particularly, he talks about the 4 agreements. So basically how I'll open this, and the next book that I'm going to do for you guys is my all-time favorite book, A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. Is like my hands down favorite. I mean, I have a lot of favorite books, but this one like takes the cake, and I'm dying because like the cover is gone, but like I will never get rid of this book. I love it so much. I take it everywhere. I should get a new copy. I will. But why do I bring this into our talk for today? A New Earth, which we'll get into in a different video, but I'm bringing it up because it has to do with the voice of knowledge. Now, the voice of knowledge and what that means is in the very beginning, he's teaching you to identify with your true nature and your true voice of knowledge, being your higher self and the person that is in tune with being conscious and aware. And the reason I bring that up is in A New Earth, which I shouldn't even like show the book like this. So in A New Earth, he actually does a great job of unraveling the egotistical mind and helping you identify with your egotistical thoughts and teaching you to become aware and conscious in a very like lighthearted way, and also identify when you are over identifying with certain thoughts, behaviors, and mannerisms. And so he does a great job of that. And the reason I brought it up is the voice of knowledge kind of starts in a very similar way. So I would say probably if you're going to read anything in order, I would say read A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle and then read The Voice of Knowledge. But I do want to talk about this today. I'm going to talk about the 4 agreements without giving the entire book away, and go pick up your own copy. And again, it's so important to pick up a paper copy, like get off your phone. So anyways, let's get into it. I think personally for me, when I found this book, I really needed a sense of empowerment. It had been, at the time, I think I was like very stressed out with work, and like, I kind of like, it's not that I lost my voice, but I definitely was kind of like tiptoeing around people that like I should have been stomping on. I'm just kidding. But I definitely at the time was a little like, afraid to ruffle feathers. And that's very much not like me. So I read this book and it helped put everything back into perspective for me. And one of the things that he teaches is in the very beginning, before you are taught anything, before you can speak a language, before you can identify with the fact that you are a woman or a girl and you should like pink, before you're told what to do, you have your own knowledge. You have your own internal voice, that voice of knowledge. And so he does a really great job of helping you reclaim that voice in a very positive way. And what I like the most is that he gives you principles that you can apply in your life. So let's get into those principles really quick. And if you're not familiar, I do have a podcast on Apple, Pandora, Spotify, Anchor. Chelsea Swift is your spirit animal. And yeah, basically I do weekly shows depending on like questions that come in. I do a lot of questions, a lot of advice. Anything from like spirituality, raising the vibe, motivation, weight loss, health, wellness. We get into it. And Yeah, don't judge me on here. I'm coming from my workout. So anyways, number one, be impeccable with your word. So that is the first of the 4 agreements that he talks about in this book. Be impeccable with your word. He goes through it, but for me, what that really means is, and what it kind of opens your mind up to is, when you think good, when you speak good, you act good. So that's why it's important to be impeccable with your word. It's not just about keeping your word or keeping your promise to people or keeping your promise to yourself, but it's also about what you say is what you do, is what you become, is what you know. So everything that you say is eventually what you become. And so in a very non-law of attraction way, he teaches you that what you repeat, what you do on repeat becomes your life, and that becomes your habit. So be impeccable with your word means really take a look at what you say and use your voice for good, to make an impact on your life and the people around you, and use the moments as opportunities to constantly be impeccable with what you're saying and what you're doing. So the next thing, which anybody that listens to the podcast is going to love this. But the next thing is, don't take anything personally. Now, again, this book came at a time in my life where I was probably taking everything personally. I was like, oh my God, like people hate me and like, I don't know what to do. And you could be the ripest peach in the world and there's still somebody who don't like peaches. Like it is what it is. Like you are never going to please everybody. So you might as well stop. And this book gives you that motivation to be like, oh, I really don't have to take things personally. And I don't want to give the whole book away, but he really dives into like the psyche of why people over identify with words, things, places, over identification and being very much involved with your ego can have you taking things personally. So when you detach from that and you detach from the need to identify, you stop taking things so personal when you can see that, oh, okay, I don't need to define myself and I don't need people to define me as well. And so for me, don't take anything personally. It just meant like everybody's it's not everybody's fighting a battle you can't see, but kind of. I mean, we're all trying to work through our own identifications, and we're also trying to raise our own awareness and consciousness, and nobody's perfect, right? And we're all human and we're all trying to find our balance. So for me, it makes it very easy to not take things personally because it's an over identification with something that's in their life and not necessarily yours. Also, if you get offended easily, that is a trait of the ego because the ego identifies and attaches itself to certain things. So that would mean that you're over attached to whatever just offended you. So it's a great exercise and tool to take with you in life because rather than get offended, it makes you so much easier to work with. Like for me personally, it made me much more flexible with things. When I stopped taking things personally, it made me happier because I didn't care as much. And I just think it overall makes you a little bit like mentally more at ease, but also I was going to say more mentally like strong, but in a strength way. Like you have that inner strength where it's like, it's not like you're strong. It's not like you're like a brute or like forceful, but like you're so strong mentally that like you could even like lift other people up. Like you're like, don't take it personal, buddy. It's fine. Like because it's not a big deal. So anyways, this book really helped me take my power back because I realized every time I take something personally, I hand my power to somebody on a platter. And I was like, I don't want to do that. So don't take anything personally. The third thing, and this was something I was doing, you might be doing it too, was don't make assumptions. I was like, I'm a Virgo, okay? So I'm the queen of like, I love to overanalyze things. It's part of my trait, whatever. And as much as like I joke about it, I still to this day, like, have to be like, reel it back in. Don't think that. Don't even think about it. Just make it go away. So I understand what it's like to overthink and overanalyze and assume things, right? And like, you don't know. So you make things up. So this book really helped you with that. Don't make assumptions. You don't know. That's the reality. That's the voice of knowledge. The voice of knowledge is you don't know. The ego, however, will give you 55 scenarios to think about, elaborate on, and come up with like 25 different strategies. Don't do it. Don't listen. Don't lean in. Again, be impeccable with your word. When you're doing that, you're thinking good thoughts. You are creating a better vocabulary, a better voice of knowledge for yourself to be able to follow so that you create better thoughts, better actions, and better habits. And then when you don't take things personal, it's super easy for you to just be like in one ear, out the other. And then the third part is you stop assuming things because you realize I really don't know everything. I really won't know everything. And I don't have to know everything, right? So it really takes the ego out of it. And I think that that's why I really loved The Voice of Knowledge, because it gave me a sense of, I don't want to say disattachment, but it helped me not identify with certain things that really blocked me in life. Like not just in relationships, but also in business. Like taking things personal is going to make you hard to work with, and making assumptions is, you know how that works. So nobody likes that person. The next thing was always do your best. And that was probably my favorite takeaway out of the whole book, which was you don't have to do your best because people are watching, and you don't have to do your best because you feel like you should. You should do your best because it's what you're doing and it's a reflection of you. And for me personally, I always kind of did my best, like, not gonna lie, I always tried to do my best. And I always take it above and beyond. I always try to take it like a step further than it needs to go. But that's just me. That's like how I work. That's how I do things. So I didn't really have an issue with that. But in this book, I think it does a great job of telling you, you shouldn't do this for brownie points. You shouldn't do this for other people. You should do your best because that's the type of person that you want to be. So it's about embodying the qualities of the voice of knowledge, which is your true self and your true consciousness. And it helps you just like take a step up from this like ego identification where you are on this operating system of what can I get and who owes me, and making assumptions and taking things personal, to being like, back up, back up. Let's change our words here. Let's be impeccable with what we're saying and thinking so that we can change our actions and we can change our behavior. So now we're not taking things personally, and we can co-create a little bit easier. And also we're not making assumptions. So we're letting things flow a little bit better, and then we can do our best. So for me, I love this book. If you end up purchasing it, definitely reach out to me on Instagram, chelsea.swift, or Chelsea Swift is your spirit animal. You can also hit me up on my blog, chelseaswiftblog.com. Again, I think this was such a great book on common sense, to be honest with you. It was very much like A New Earth, which I'm just showing the back cover because we talked about this already. But A New Earth really dives into your ego. So if you're the type of person that's like, okay, I take everything personal and I make a lot of assumptions and I think really negatively, I would definitely check out A New Earth first. That was a word hurdle, but we didn't do it. That was like a half word hurdle, whatever. It was such a profound book for me, and I always read it because it's like you can always use a reminder, you know, your ego will always be there. And that's probably why I hang on to this book so much, is because you can always use that refresher of like, you are not your ego, you're the person watching the ego. So it's important to like understand that operation. And then I think once you know that, you know, A Voice of Knowledge is like, would be a great second book to dive into. So I'm going to do A New Earth next. So hopefully you're loving these little book reviews. Again, if you haven't checked out my podcast yet. It's basically about like positive energy. It's kind of like where you come to, it's like tune in to tune up. I just try to be as positive as I can. And I always give like motivational advice, health advice, wellness advice, mentality advice. So yeah, I just thought on here I'd start sharing some of the books that I read. I get a lot of questions on like positive mentality, how to stay positive. I think reading is one of the best things you can do. You don't even need to read serious books. Like if you're thinking like this is spiritual and I'm not into that, just find your genre. Like find what you're into. If you're into like 50 Shades of Grey, like nobody's going to judge you. Like if you're into like Cosmopolitan, like pick up a magazine. Like you don't really need to read anything heavy. You don't need to read like Psychology Today. Actually, the book that I'm reading right now. Stop. Look at the book I'm reading right now. Stop. I read books bigger than me. So I'm reading a couple books actually. And this is a great book as well. So anyways, read. It's such an important part of being positive, being healthy mentally. And it's so healthy for you. It really, really is. So anyways, The Voice of Knowledge, check this book out. Again, a lot of people like audiobooks. If you're the type of person, you're really, really busy, you want to double up, listen to it in the car, listen to it while you're doing laundry and dishes. Like I feel you. I've definitely had those days where like I'm doing spring cleaning, plus I have work, plus I'm doing this. So like, yeah, an audiobook can be helpful, but there are certain books I just truly believe you need a copy of. And I'm telling you, this is a book you would want a copy of, if only to pass it on to a friend. Because that's the other thing. You got to like pass your books on, pass them on. So anyways, hopefully we had a great pep talk today. I will see you guys on the next YouTube video. And don't forget, I have my daily gratitude journal, which is out on Amazon.com. You can go to chelseaswiftblog.com, click on books, and I have my journal over there. And I have my third book coming out in a couple weeks. So you will see that on there as well. So guys, maybe I'll be doing a review of my own book. Actually, that's not a bad idea. That might need to happen. All right. I will see you guys on the podcast. Chelsea Swift is your spirit animal. That's on Spotify, Pandora, Anchor, Apple. And I will see you on the next video. Bye.